Imagine this scenario. You're a scout in the army of Xerxes I, crouched on a jagged ridge above a narrow coastal pass. Below you is the Greek line at the Battle of Thermopylae. You were told to expect monsters, men raised for war, a wall of iron and discipline. But what you see instead makes you hesitate. They aren't shouting. They aren't drilling. They aren't even armored. They're sitting calmly in the dirt. Some are combing their long hair. Others rub oil into their skin. A few laugh quietly, like men with no fear at all. It looks wrong. You rush back to report.
When you describe it, Xerxes laughs. Xerxes, these are the warriors who defy me?
To him, it's ridiculous, but standing beside him is a man who doesn't laugh. Demaratus listens, then quietly says,
Demaratus, you misunderstand what you saw. They only prepare themselves like that, when they know they're about to die.
What looked like calm was acceptance. Those men had already made peace with death. Before we go further, if you enjoy stories like this, where history feels real and intense, hit like and subscribe, and comment where you're watching from. I read them all. Here's what most people don't realize. Those Spartans weren't supposed to be there at all. Back in Sparta, it was a sacred time, a religious festival where warfare was forbidden. No marching, no fighting, no exceptions. Breaking that rule wasn't just illegal, it was an insult to the gods. But one man chose to act anyway. Leonidas. I understood something others didn't. The Persians wouldn't wait, and if they did nothing, Greece would fall. So he found a loophole. He didn't take an army. He took a personal guard. 300 men. Other Greek allies would join, raising the total to around 7,000. But here's the detail that changes everything. They weren't the youngest. They weren't the fastest. They were veterans, men who had already lived, and every single one of them had a son. This wasn't a mission meant to succeed. It was a mission designed to be remembered. When Leonidas left, his wife, Gorgo, didn't ask him to come home safe. She asked what she should do.
Marry well and raise strong children.
At Thermopylae, the Greeks gathered roughly 7,000 men. Facing them, an army so large it barely felt human. Led by Xerxes, the Persian force may have reached into the hundreds of thousands, a moving empire. They didn't just march, they engineered their path forward. They cut canals through land. They built bridges across the sea. They stockpiled food for years in advance. But here's the part most people miss. That massive army had a weakness. It couldn't stop. An army that size consumes enormous resources every single day. Food, water, space. If it paused too long, it would collapse under its own weight. Xerxes had no choice. He had to break through. Quickly. And Leonidas knew it. Thermopylae wasn't random. It was chosen. A narrow strip of land between mountain and sea. At some points, barely wide enough for a small group of soldiers to stand shoulder to shoulder. In that space, numbers didn't matter anymore. The Persian advantage disappeared. No flanking, no surrounding, no overwhelming force, just a straight collision. When the Persians advanced, they expected the Greeks to break instantly. Instead, they hit a wall, shields locked, spears forward, silent, unmoving. The Persians charged, and were cut down. This wasn't chaos, it was controlled violence. The Greek formation turned combat into something mechanical. Their longer spears struck first, their armor absorbed blows, their discipline held everything together. The Persians couldn't even reach them, they were dying before they could fight. Bodies began to stack up, the ground became unstable. Still, the line didn't break, and that's when Xerxes made a critical decision. He sent in his best, the immortals, 10,000 elite soldiers, handpicked, highly trained, never defeated. If anything could break the Greek line, it was them. But when they entered the pass, they ran into the same problem. There was no space, no maneuvering, no advantage. At one moment, the Greeks did something unexpected. They pulled back. They turned and ran. The Persians surged forward, believing victory was finally within reach. They broke formation. They chased, and then everything flipped. The Greeks stopped, turned, reformed instantly. The charging Persians slammed straight into a wall of spears. It was a trap, and it worked, more than once. By the end of the second day, even the immortals were struggling. For 2 days, the impossible held. But battles aren't just about strength, they're about knowledge. And one man changed everything. Ephialtes of Trachis. He knew a hidden mountain path, a way around the Greek position, and for the right price, he gave it away. That night Persian troops moved through the mountains, silent, careful, step by step through darkness. By dawn, the Greeks were surrounded. The advantage had flipped. The trap had become a tomb. Leonidas understood immediately. There would be no victory here, only sacrifice. So he made a choice that defined the entire battle. He told most of the army to leave, to survive, to fight again. But not everyone obeyed. The Spartans stayed. So did 700 soldiers from Thebes, and others who refused to abandon the stand. Around 1,500 men remained, facing an entire empire. And now, the goal had changed. They weren't trying to win. They were trying to make it hurt. Leonidas gave no speech about survival, no promises, only reality. Prepare yourselves, because this ends today. The Greeks didn't wait to be attacked. They moved forward, out of the narrow pass, into open ground. They charged. This wasn't formation anymore, it was chaos, violence, desperation. Leonidas fell during the fighting, and the battle intensified. The Greeks fought fiercely to recover his body, not for strategy, for honor. They succeeded, but at a cost. Weapons began to fail, spears snapped, swords broke, and still, they kept fighting, and what happened next is hard to imagine. With no weapons left, they used their hands, their strength, their teeth. It became something primal, something terrifying. Even the Persians hesitated, not because they were losing, but because the Kuteshin Namans in Zazdans Andata Sebastian Storn, facing men who refused to stop. Eventually, numbers took over. The Greeks were pushed back, surrounded, exhausted, outnumbered beyond hope. Xerxes made the final decision: no more charges, no more losses. He ordered archers forward, thousands of them. They raised their bows, and the sky disappeared. Arrows fell like rain. The last defenders stood together and vanished beneath it. They lost the battle, but they changed everything. Their stand bought time. Time for Greece to prepare. Time to regroup. Time to resist. Soon after, at Battle of Salamis, the Persian navy was shattered. At Battle of Plataea, the invasion ended. Thermopylae didn't stop the Persians, but it proved they could be stopped. And that idea changed history. A monument now stands where they fell, with words that still echo thousands of years later. Stranger, tell them we lie here, faithful to our duty. If you made it this far, you're someone who appreciates the real weight of history, not just the myths. Make sure you're subscribed, and I want your opinion. In today's world, is that level of sacrifice something to admire, or something we should leave in the past? Let me know below, and I'll see you in the next story.